Welcome to another episode of the Protect the Dream Project. And as you know, I'm your host, Mark DeLeon. And what we do here at Protect the Dream Project is we help you to move from valleys to the mountaintops. Or maybe mountaintop to mountaintop. You know, we want to give you those tools to help you to stand back up when you've fallen, to be able to move forward and to make the best of your life and to make some really good decisions. So today we've got with us a gentleman I've met not that long ago. But he's a fantastic guy. He's knowledgeable, and we are going to talk to you today about headshots. Interesting. A headshot is better than a shot in the head, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So we have Mil with us today. Mil, will you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Patel. I'm actually a photographer. My studio is called Mil Photography, and I like to focus on primarily professional headshots and branding for companies. So a lot of things out there, everyone's seen a website, everyone's seen social media and things like that, and no one realizes how important those are to companies, whether it be a solopreneur or a corporate giant conglomerate. No one realizes how important those are. So I'm kind of out there trying to get people to understand what the value of those headshots are in terms of first impression. Even if you're a job seeker, what is it that the hiring manager sees is your headshot when you're looking at LinkedIn. So I'm out there preaching the importance of all these things, and I take a picture at the same time.
Mil, when I think about a headshot, I like to think about maybe from more a philosophical point of view. You know, what would you say a headshot does for a person?
So, I mean, many things. So, the first thing a hiring manager, let's use LinkedIn as an example. So the first thing a hiring manager will always look at is your picture. That's just all across the board, especially in the day of social media right now. Your picture is kind of always there, right? So when it comes to a headshot, that's the first thing they're kind of understanding about you. That's the first impression they get of you. That's the first, they haven't read anything about you yet because there's a reason that they put your profile picture up ahead first, right? So it's when you show a confident professional headshot, it makes let's call it the hiring manager or HR or whoever you want to call it, look at you in a different light than if you were to do the selfie. You know what I mean? The selfie is one of those, sorry, I don't know if you saw my phone in the camera, but the selfie is one of those things where it's not flattering. It doesn't speak professional. It doesn't speak profession. It speaks having a good time, which is not a bad thing. But when it comes to the actual professionalism aspect of it, you want something that's a little more properly done, shows the confidence in your eyes, shows the confidence in you and the value that you would provide for that company when they hire you.
Let's kind of go down the road of confidence. Mm-hmm. When people come to you for that first headshot, I would suspect that confidence in a lot of cases is
not there.
Is lacking.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. And everyone, it's funny how many people, when they're on the phone with me and talking, you can feel the confidence because they're trying to get ahead of it all. But then as soon as they see the camera, their first thing is, I hate pictures. Everyone, even photographers out there, everyone hates their picture. But it's not about hating your picture. It's you don't feel like you have the confidence to portray the best version of you in that camera. Now, my job is to get you to that point. So that's why, it's important whether you do it with a professional photographer or a friend, know that picture there is you, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but when people come to me with that issue, it's the first thing they always say to me is, oh, I don't look good in pictures. But you have to get over that narrative, right? So to me, that's kind of where I step in, and the one thing I do is I'll always take the picture and I'll show the client the picture right away.
Right.
And that gets them thinking, oh, I actually look good in these pictures, right? Or if they feel oh, my hair is messy, so we fix it and we continue. So in that case, we'll, I'll go shot by shot with them and then after a few shots, they're actually comfortable. I want to get the most confident you is the most comfortable you. So when you actually portray that confidence in that picture, then you're going to actually start liking it. And then that way we can work from that. We work from there.
So when can you actually see that transition in people? Is there like a moment where you say, okay, you can see that they've actually moved from that thought of, oh my God, look at me, I'm hideous, to, oh, that ain't so bad.
It's in the shoulders and it's in the smile. So I don't look for it when I'm taking the picture. I look for it when I'm showing them the picture. So when I show them the picture, you can automatically tell from their smile or from their frown or face or expression whatsoever if that was them. Now, when they look at that picture, if you get like little things like, the eye movement, there's no expression whatsoever, they're not comfortable with that picture. That confidence is not there in that picture yet. So we do it again. And the benefit of any standard photographer, we have all the time to do it all over again, right? Just because we took that one picture doesn't mean we can't take it again. So when it comes down to it, I'll shoot until they're comfortable, and once they're comfortable, that's when I'll start the real set.
What got you into photography? And rather, what got you into being self-employed? Like, everyone has I guess not everyone, but many people have a story. Some people it's a matter of frustration with what they were doing. Some people it's they kind of fell into it. Some people, like, what brought you to the photography business?
So, I mean, I've always been creative in my life, always. But coming from an Indian culture, and my parents were fairly, very culturalized and whatnot, and the world at that time was under the impression that you had to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, education. The arts were not a career, right? So when growing up, I didn't do well in school because everything they were teaching me in school, we've had this conversation before, everything they teach me in school, from science, from math, from, anything really, the only things that I actually vibed with were art, photography, drama, anything that was more on the artsy level. But to my parents and to the society as a whole, that wasn't considered the path that you should take. So I grew up kind of putting my creativity on the back burner and trying my hardest and failing in pretty much majority of the other subjects. Now, as I got older, my gift of gab led me to marketing, led me to sales, led me to working for large companies like Dyson, like Lids Hat World, Lifetime Athletic. I was in the corporate world, and it's funny because you see how proud everyone surrounding me was that I was working for big names like Dyson, but you saw the sorrow on my face. Like, right. I was just doing the job day to day, and I would do photography behind closed doors, but only as a passion. So for the longest time, I bought an SLR camera. My very first SLR camera sat in the box for about 3 years because I was kind of told that it wasn't something to have or something to do, right? So I eventually dusted off that camera and started utilizing it, started learning about it, started learning things about it. So ultimately, that led me to eventually, let's say a few years down the line, that led me to, I'll just start taking pictures of friends. I'll start taking pictures of small family stuff. I'll start doing that. And then I created a small business out of it, a side hustle, if you will. And lo and behold, we all went through a happy thing called COVID. I lost my job.
Okay. In
the corporate world. I was furloughed, if you will, if that's the correct term. But I'm not a sit around type, just let the government pay my bills. I needed something to do. It wasn't even that. I didn't mind. I loved the CERB coming in, don't get me wrong. But I needed to do something. And then I realized as I made my side hustle, I was like, you know what? I have all the time in the world right now because I was waiting for my company to start open again, that I took photography on again as a full-time. And then as COVID as restrictions started opening up, photography became my thing. And then my company called me. It's like, you ready to come back? I was like, no, I'm going to take a shot at this. And so when I kind of got into photography around like the end of, like, not end of COVID, because realistically we're still, let's call it what it is. When I got into photography full time, I was, let's call it a jack of all trades. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do weddings. I wanted to do families and this and that and this. but I was never comfortable with that. What I found myself comfortable with was what I was good at, which was business stuff.
So you essentially decided this is the road I'm going to follow, and you were able to focus and narrow down the scope
Correct.
to what
Yeah.
to what you want to do. And I think that really is a metaphor for a lot of things, right? So a lot of people, you'll find them kind of wallowing and, I guess, finding that path for their life is often difficult. I mean, look, we all go through it, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times for me I've had to kind of shake my head and say, dude, what are you doing? You know, where are you going? And just trying to figure out, make that concerted choice as to, I'm going this direction, right? Is what tends to lead to a more successful type of situation for most people, right? So where do you see your business headed? Like where do you see yourself headed?
So I mean, with my business with myself, as time has gone, obviously you're not successful unless you're learning as you go. Like that's just the thing, right? I'm not gonna say I know everything about photography, but I know enough to start a business.
Okay.
And now I'm learning as I go how to build upon that business. End goal, realistically, the end goal is to have a team behind me and still focusing mostly on branding and corporate life and everything like that. But eventually, like the all goal, the end of the day when I retire, it's my retirement will happily be I shoot the projects I want, my team shoots the projects that keeps the company going, right? So for me, that's what I'm doing. My day-to-day is to just build my brand, is to let people know that Mill Photography's here, you know, start with Ajax and then move forward. And then, you know, at this point, I am known in Toronto, but I want to expand that. I want to keep going. So it's not so much, I'm not financially motivated. My success itself is building that name, that brand, that recognizable brand, right? So that's the day-to-day that I kind of go through at the moment, is just kind of, where do I see myself? I see myself being a well-known photographer who strengths are within headshot, professional headshots, and the branding as a whole.
And that was kind of like the interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, I hate that question.
That question has not been strayed from for years. Everyone still uses it.
I know it's a terrible question, because like, really? But that's okay. That you know,
you have to ask it sometimes, right?
It forces you to think, right?
Yeah.
I've my wife always says to me, you got to start with the end in mind, and there's absolute truth to that, right? You know, it's not a matter of where do you see yourself, rather like where do you see
what your final goals are, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know. The way I look at it all is, you have to have an end goal. Like you always have to have an end goal, but that's not the only thing you have to think of. And so I have my end goal, but right now I'm focused on, I know that end goal is there, but I'm focused on what am I doing in the next year to get closer to that. Okay, that year, what's the next 2 years? What's the next? So you slowly build on it. You don't have to be like, the problem I think with a lot of people is, and a lot of people that, you know, try hard to find success but kind of stray along the way, is they want to be 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. They want to already be 10 years from now. But there's a way to get there. You have to build to get there, right? And it's a patience game, sadly.
Well, one of the things I often tell people, when I talk to young people who are starting a business, for example, you know, they're always telling you about, I got my business plan. And you know what? That's great. But I always ask them this one question. Okay, so you've got your business plan, but within your business plan, do you have an exit plan? Because, you know, the exit plan is what helps you finally really determine, as we said earlier, that end goal, right?
Yeah.
So what do you want to do with your business when you're finished, right? And knowing that end goal makes it a whole lot easier to figure out those steps in between. So working backwards is way better than working forwards.
Absolutely.
You know, I look at all these business. What's we're looking for?
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, you know, the business plans. That's what we're looking for.
Business plans.
And a lot of it is speculation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to have 50 million of this, or I'm going to have 100,000 of this, or the other. And all that's well and good. You've done your research. You've got an idea what the industry that you're in is about. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't pan out that way. You know what it's like politicians, right?
The promises
and
then...
and when they finally see what the money looks like, it's, oh, my bad, you know.
But I think business plans, they're marketed terribly, because at the end of the day, what the end goal of business plan should actually be, it should be giving you a platform to think about what your final goals are, right? It shouldn't be the almighty Bible. You shouldn't swear by it.
Correct.
It should be the plan. You should come into it knowing that you're probably going to veer from it. But if the end goal, the end game is the main goal there, you just got to figure out how to get there with everything else that's happening in between. Right?
Exactly. And unfortunately, that's not how it's taught. But
no.
But you know, when you sit down, like I had the privilege, I'm going to say about 3 months ago, at the University of Toronto, they had a Shark Tank-esque type of
that's cool.
fair, and they asked me to be one of the judges, and it was I guess a bit of a proud moment, I guess.
Well, I mean, it shows that you know your stuff in business, right?
I would like to think so. But yeah, so they asked me to be one of their Shark Tank evaluators, and afterwards we sat down with some of these students, and you know, the ideas they're coming with are like, wow.
Yeah.
I would never have thought about that. One young man and a couple of buddies, they were doing some app that they're using in Argentina or Peru, anyway, where this young man was from. And, you know, we got talking about it. But they are looking at it from the modern point of view and not necessarily applying the basic principles of business.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where a lot of people kind of get lost. So I think, you know, applying basic principles, you know, as we said, knowing the end, knowing the goal. For example, where are you going to put the value in your business?
Yeah.
So if you want to have, for example, if your long-term goal is to sell your business, okay. So if you sell your business, where's the value someone's going to buy? Is it going to be in the brand, which is what Mill would take care of, right? Is it going to be in your brand? Is it going to be in maybe some patents or a special way of doing something? Is it going to be in a particular product? Is it going to be in maybe your database of clients? Is it going to be in goodwill? Like, you know, where is your value? When you look at large companies like running shoe companies, for example, right? You know, let's use Nike.
Yeah.
As an example, their value is in their logo and their name,
and
right?
They built their brand on that, right?
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
So I mean, their shoes. I'm just being facetious here. Their shoes could be garbage. They're not. I'm just saying. But their name stands for excellence or stands for something. So, you know, before someone actually sees the product, they have value in their name. So down the road, if they ever decide to sell their business or whatever, they know where their value is built, right? And I think that's a lot for people. You know, when you're moving through life, you've got to figure out where you're going to build value in your life,
and
right?
that's that. It's funny because that stems from business and life, right? So it's like, I can have the best headphones in the world. I can sell that to the world, but if I don't have value behind it, if I say it's the best, but they end up being garbage, but there's no value. It's like your thing about Nike right there.
Yep.
They can make a terrible shoe, which they don't. I'm just saying, you know, but they could. But you're likely to buy it because you know the brand, right?
That's
you
right.
know the name.
That's right.
That name means something. So even in your life, when it comes to like even just being a job seeker, right? It's not enough to go in and just do your 9 to 5 and leave. You got to show your value.
Absolutely. You got to walk in there and say, you know, hey, this is what I can do, and they're gonna ask you to prove it.
Yeah.
But you know, value is highly important. You know, coming up, being confident. Again, back to our original conversation about the headshots. Confidence adds value.
Yeah.
Right? And value adds confidence.
Yes.
You really can't have one without the other.
Well, that's it, right? At the end of the day, you can, and this is going to sound terrible, but you can be the most unattractive person in the world in your mind, But if your value is there, if what you do adds value, what does it matter? You're adding value to this world. You're adding value to your company. You're adding value to your family, to your organization, to anything. So ultimately, that confidence in knowing, like, you're doing that, whether someone tells you you're doing it or just knowing that, hey, I'm actually really good at this, that adds value.
So, in the headshot world, right? Where's the value?
The value is in, I don't want to say your looks, because the value's not in your looks, but in the headshot world, this is actually a tough question, because it's all based on how each person individually sees it, right? For me, I think being that the first impression is your headshot, your look, who you like, a picture can say everything about you. A picture literally tells your story, and that's kind of what my job is to tell a story based on the person. So when it comes to a headshot, when I look at it, I'm like, what do I want to show? If you're a banker, what is it that me as a customer sees in that banker? Do I see the confident person who can handle my money? Yes. How do I show that in this picture? So, properly nice tied up suit, well postured, confident smile, but shows that there's still business and still serious. So in terms of a headshot's as valuable as you make it. If you can take a selfie that shows that you're still that confident self, by all means, you don't need me. What do you need me for? But if you want to show, forget being a professional photographer, just to have a headshot that actually shows who you are as an employee, as a business owner, anything like that, shows everything. So I'll use an example. So there's a client that I have, and they have a bus rental company. If you currently look, and their target market is mothers, parents, things like that. Now, if you look at their current headshots, pre me shooting them, they're doing a whole website revamp, so the new headshots will be up there. But if you look at the current headshots that are up there, it's against a very dark wall. There's no real lighting. It's yellow, first off. Half their face is dark because of shadow, and the picture's kind of taken from up here looking down. Now, if you look at that, do you think, okay, well, I want that person to be taking my kid to school and back? No. It's a dark, weird picture of a person, right? Whether it be, I mean, you can answer that question. Would you trust your child with something like that?
Probably not.
Right? So when I look at a picture, so the first thing I thought for headshots, and a headshot doesn't have to be done against a backdrop. Right. A headshot can be done in an environment. So when the first thing I thought about their headshot was, what is the story here? Who are you? You're a bus driver. Great. Let's use that. So in the background, I had them stand a certain distance away from their bus, so that you can still see the bus, but it's blurred out in the background. Mm-hmm. And then I lit their faces up with the proper smile, and I posed them to show this is a confident bus driver. This is a person that you can see their eyes, you can see their smile, you can see everything about them. I can trust my kid with them. Okay. So when it's building, it's the importance of a headshot is building the trust for the viewer.
I was just going down that road. Exactly what you're saying. Trust is important.
Yes.
Building trust in business, building trust in life, but not just building it, but maintaining it.
Yes. 100%.
Once you've built it, the ability to keep it and maintain it is second to none. It's easier to build trust than to rebuild trust.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Once it's even easier to lose trust by making a stupid mistake.
Yes, 100%.
So I think, we need to, in life, we need to be able to weigh our decisions or weigh our choices and make wise decisions that lead us to that point of trust. Because trust, when you look at relationships, whether it's parent-child, siblings, husbands, wives, etc., none of that happens without trust.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Running a small business, starting a business, right?
So the biggest thing about, even to your point with the business, as you talk about that, you can spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on advertising, on marketing, on all that stuff. At the end of the day, your clients are your biggest supporters. Your clients are your biggest advertisement. They're the ones that tell their friends or their other companies they work for or anybody like that who you are and what value you bring to them and what value you could bring to their friend. So by building that trust, by building that relationship, they're more inclined to promote you without you even asking. It's the best free advertisement you can get. So when you don't have that trust with the client or the whoever it is, if you don't have that trust, what are the chances they're actually going to promote you? What are the chances that happens? Very likely, because they don't see the value in you. Like, it goes back to that, right?
Trust, I guess. Trust is so easily lost. I know of some situations, recent situations, where the loss of trust has just, I don't want to use the word destroy, but has significantly altered interactions between people, right? Trust, particularly in business, if you are not a trustworthy business, it ruins your reputation. The saying that it's about who you know in business, well, it's not. That's not the truth. In truth, it's about who knows you.
Yes.
And this is where trust comes into place, right? So over my lifetime, I've had a number of opportunities where people have called me because of somebody who knew me, right? It's not because I knew them.
Yeah.
And they were ready and willing to do business with me because of that trust, right? And that the trust that the other person had, and they parlayed it onto this person.
So that person trusted the person that was referring you, and thus created that trust value with you between the other newborn.
Exactly. And had I done something to screw that up, not only am I breaking trust with the person that who called me, but the person who referred me.
Yeah.
Right? So the domino effect of mashing up trust, of mashing up your trust is so significant that we need to do a better job in actually making decisions when we're moving forward.
Yes.
And I think we need to be able to learn to put the money aside, because the money will come.
Yeah.
Right? The money will come when all the other things that are set in place and rolling. Because without those other things, sure, anybody can do stuff from okay, let's look at it from the point of view of a phone scammer. Let's use the phone scammer as an example. Bad example maybe, but let's one thing that came in my head real quick. Someone calls you for duct cleaning. I shouldn't use a duct cleaning reference, but
let's be real. That's a scam that most these days,
right? And you actually, I'm going to relate to a recent news article that I heard on the radio, news piece. There was scams going around here in the Greater Toronto area for roofers. Now, I don't know the whole truth to this. I'm just going by what I heard from this radio announcer, in which someone would come to the door and knock on the door and say, "Hey, listen, can I inspect your roof?" The person would go up on the roof and actually damage the roof.
Oh, God.
And then come back and tell the homeowner, "Oh, your roof is damaged and it needs to be fixed." And the people would then say, "Okay, here's my money. Fix my roof." And that guy would disappear.
Oh.
Right? Now,
I thought they would at least fix it. They created their own market.
Take the deposit and gone. Now, the issue becomes now that trust for any other roof or anyone else that comes behind
becomes
them
lost.
Is lost.
Yeah.
Right? And who knows how many other businesses that will affect. So trust is important, and trust also leads to integrity and dealing with things in a proper manner. And again, making choices that aren't necessarily money based, making choices that are based on doing the right thing, making the right decision.
I mean, I love that you brought this whole up, though, the whole concept of don't concentrate on the money aspect. Because growing up, we all were told, and yes, money does make, the world go round, but money doesn't make you happy. Ultimately, when it comes to the business, that's the first thing. Coming out of corporate world into a business, not having any financial backing coming into it, I was constantly worried about the money, the money, the money. So I would take on jobs that I would end up, in theory, losing money for, but to me, that dollar figure looked better on the idea of that dollar figure looked better on my, my spreadsheet than not having it there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then as you go and you keep going, you realize, like, I'll take photography. You charge the person whatever, $150 or whatever that is, but you do a bad job at it. You would do a bad job at that picture. Like, let's say something that I never really wanted to shoot to begin with, like, let's say a family, right? You do a bad job at that picture, and then you realize that, but you use that for your branding, and that makes a bad impact on you, right? That loses the trust. So as you refine, as you build more confidence in your craft, don't worry about the money. Just worry on mastering, not even mastering, but just working towards building the knowledge base and building that base, and then the money will just come flowing. Like, it just, like, as you get better and as you build that trust, as you build that confidence, the business will come. So it's, as much as we all in this world focus on the money, and it's hard to say not to focus on the money, because people are going to be like, well, Mill, I have bills to pay, Mark, you're telling me not to make money, but, my dog needs to go to the vet. And ultimately, it's just like, we're not saying not to focus on money, not to focus on that, but don't make that your only focus. Focus on the business itself. Build your value, build your trust, build your confidence, and then that all of those factors will lead to money coming in, because people will look at you in a different light. Businesses, for example, in my case, when I target businesses, they look at me in a different light today than they did look at me 2 years ago, because they see the value that I bring now versus when I first started charging very low, but also not providing the best of product that I could have. Now I provide the best of product that I can while still learning to continuously progress in my product, but there's more confidence.
So there was a learning curve for you as well, too,
100%.
Right? So what you're saying is that, you quickly figured out that chasing the dollar was not going to be the means, the proper means to the end.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of businesses need to understand that, it's about, going back to what we were talking about earlier, about value, right? It's about the value you bring to someone. How do you solve their problem? How do you make their lives easier, right? And if you can make their lives easier, then they'll help you move forward. Well, I know, I guess, being an insurance professional, one of the most difficult things is to get people to understand, because insurance is not one of these things you can see. I mean, you can take a photograph, and I can see that photograph, and I can determine whether or not it's great and whatnot. Insurance, you can't see it, right? But find yourself in a position where you don't have life insurance.
Right.
Then you understand what the value of having a life insurance and having someone who understands what life insurance can do for you. It becomes blatantly clear. But unfortunately, by then, it's too late.
And that's to your point now, is a lot of people are, let's call them do-it-yourselfers, because they don't want to invest that little bit of money, right? I've done it in my past with a lot of things, like, oh, no, I'll just do it myself and it'll be fine. But as a professional, like as an insurance professional yourself, you've put years upon years into learning the trade, understanding everything about it, and everything that you need to know to help a person, versus that person screwing up the first time, screwing up the second time, screwing up the third time, maybe the fourth time they learn it, but they've lost countless amounts of money on the way. You know what I mean? Because they didn't just hire a professional that would have ended up saving them a little bit of money, right? I do that. It's a struggle most business owners face, especially like being in photography. Nowadays, cameras on your cell phone are good. They're great, but they're not professional cameras, but they're good. But there's more factors into photography than just the camera, right? There's your lighting, there's the mood, there's the setting. I look at things more in a creative way than like a typical person would. So that's what you're paying me to do, is to get that. You saw that picture on Google and you really liked it, or you saw that picture on Pinterest, you really liked it. You want your picture to be something like that. Trust my eye to see that versus putting a camera on a tripod and hope for the best. You know what I mean?
I had a young guy I was talking to the other day, and after our conversation, I started to think that, you know, a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you don't, when you know a little bit about something, and you think you can,
It builds the wrong confidence.
yeah. You know, this young man, he was trying to get involved in some. He started asking me questions about trading stocks and whatnot. And he says, "Well, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that." And I said, "Okay." I started asking him questions regarding what he's doing, and he couldn't answer me.
Oh, especially with stocks. It's,
I said, you know, do you understand? Do you really understand what you're getting into? And he didn't. He didn't really understand. After the conversation, he recognized he didn't understand what he was doing, and that the road he was going down could end quite disastrously.
Was he trying to invest in GME?
No, he was trying to invest in you know, the fast moving high cost tech stocks, you know, like Tesla, right?
The ones that don't do much movement anymore because they've moved enough.
Right, that's right. And he was playing with a little bit of crypto. And I said, well, you know, that's all well and good, but do you have money do you have a shirt you want to lose?
Yeah.
And so, you know, after a little bit of a conversation, I left him to kind of do some homework and to go after things. But it got me thinking, you know, a little bit of information does not always produce the results you want.
No.
Right? So I think we all need to be careful that we ask the right questions, and to know when to ask those questions and who we should be asking them to.
Research is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, research, knowing things is good, obviously, but you shouldn't create a false confidence with it, right? Especially when it comes to like something like stocks, for example. Just because you watched one YouTube channel that said, you know, invest in this, doesn't mean you should do it. Do your research. Understand it first. Crypto was one of the biggest things in terms of you need to understand it before you lose your money, all your money in it. Because it's just as crypto is very volatile, right? So just as much as you might make $10,000, you might lose all of it plus, right?
My rule of thumb for that kind of thing is, if you don't understand it,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Right? So leave it there. But anyway, so we're going to wrap things up a little bit. And I'm going to get back to our initial premise that a headshot is better than a shot in the head. You know?
I love that. I just love that. I'm going to make that my motto now.
Here, you can have it.
Yeah.
So I would like you to just do a little plug for yourself, Mill. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So you can visit my website. It's Mill Photography, milphotography.com. There you'll see all my information. You'll see my portfolios. You have my contact information. You can also find me on Instagram at Mill Patel, MILPATEL, and on Facebook, Mill Photography.
And just real quick, what geographic area are you servicing?
Right now I'm located in Ajax, so I have a studio in Pickering Village, but I service pretty much majority of the GTA.
I have to say your studio is very nice.
Thank you.
I really like it. It's got that je ne sais quoi, as they say.
Well, you called it something earlier. It was more. It's a very rustic. Like I'm trying to go for a not so polished, but you know, still classy vibe.
It's got that. For me, it's got that colonial kind of.
Yeah, the red brick wall.
Yeah, I don't know what to. I don't know how to explain it, but it's got a warmth.
Yeah.
It's got a warmth to it.
So the area is a very old area. I'm pretty sure Pickering Village was created in the 1800s, and we still want to try to keep that. As much as you see a lot of modern businesses in it, you want to keep the roots of the building. So when it was designed, it was kind of just like how do we turn it into the photography studio, but still keep it looking, giving it that character of what it originally was. And we came up with what we came up with.
Well, Mil, thanks for visiting us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I hope our listeners got some value out of this conversation. Please continue to join us in our next episode. It's been a little while since we put out an episode. We're just trying to kind of get some really interesting guests lined up for you. So join us for the next episode. I don't know when that's going to be.
I'll have to work that out. You want to hear me again, I'll just come over again.
But that's it.
All right.
Mark DeLeon with the Protect the Dream Project and Mil Patel.
Take care, guys.
We out.
This has been a Pixzealeon production.